Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic Movie Review Podcast 1993. I'm your host, Sean Patrick. With me is Amy Kay.
Bonsoir.
And MJ.
Hello.
We're talking about the movie Untamed Heart from 1993, directed by Tony Bill, starring Marisa Tomei, Christian Slater, and Rosie Perez.
We should not be laughing so fast into the beginning of this.
It's a fun watch. Christian Slater plays a man who thinks he has a baboon heart.
He does. Magic rubies. And
Magic rubies gave him... His dad was stealing magic rubies to heal him. And when the baboon found out, the Baboon King found out that Christian Slater was dying, he ripped his own heart out of his chest and shoved it into Christian Slater's chest.
As evidenced by the slash of a scar on his chest.
Scar on his
very,
chest.
It's so not
diagonal.
Right. It looks like he tried to have a heart abortion, really.
He did heart surgery in the back of a garage.
Back alley with a coat hanger. That's what was happening. I'm sorry, this movie is so fucking weird.
It really is.
Oh my god. Really holy shit.
So the whole thing proceeds as Marisa Tomei, who we establish as a whore right off the bat. All of her friends, the conversation they have with her.
That's true. Everybody did say that.
Her boyfriend breaks up with her, and they're like, "Okay, was this Dave? Or was it Dan? No, it was Mark. It was Jim.
Bill
no,
and
it was Bill.
Yeah, and other Bill.
There's so many Bills.
So many Bills in this movie.
That's just Minnesota.
Minnesota just full of Bill.
All Bills.
Minneapolis, Idaho. Excuse me. Sorry.
Yeah. So. So just out of the gate, Marisa Tomei, I love her. Yeah. I do love her. She's awesome.
She's fantastic.
But there are so many noises that she makes in this movie that are so upsetting to me. And they're just like little, like they're just noises. They're like,
so many scene transitions are just her making that
noise. Yes. It's so weird. And again, it takes place in Minneapolis. You know, I know us Midwesterners, and we make a lot of weird noises. I get that. But I think that is something specific to Minneapolis, maybe.
It feels like the editor just was listening for Marisa Tomei to make a guttural noise, and that's my cue.
Yeah.
Scene change. Scene's not over yet? We have to continue? Oh, shit.
She didn't make the noise.
I don't
Follow him into the other dining room now. That is the weird thing about this movie is, like, the scenes are so strange, and sometimes they go on for too long, or just when you think they're over, they start up again.
Yeah. It's like a person who's, like, trying to leave, but somebody keeps asking them questions. It's, like, really awkward. Like
those people you just can't get out of your house. Yeah, it's like, this was
So
fun.
How's your mom? She's good.
I thought you were leaving. Please leave. And again, so she works at this diner that she bought the cigarette machine for, which we never got a payout on that whatsoever, right?
I don't think she did. I think that was a bit they were doing. She was just trying to put them off. Like, they joked that she owned the machine because she was trying to stop them from hitting it, and then that became a running gag in their flirting with her before they try and raped her.
But she even said...
She was talking about how much it costed.
Right,
yeah.
I think she was just in on the bit. I don't think she actually
Maybe
owned
they
it.
should clue us in on the bit.
Yeah,
because I was confused.
It wasn't the most romantic flirt. Because, again, these two men do go on to attempt to rape her.
That's true. That's true. And so that's, again, it's not that she's not a likable character, but I really feel like, we're starting this film off kind of weird, she looks kind of pathetic, basically. And then, she almost gets raped.
Yeah. Which,
again... So much anxiety watching that scene. Could not handle that. Had to go make my potato at that point.
Was it effective, or was it just, like, the idea?
I think it was effective.
Okay, so
I think that's probably the only...
Yes,
okay, yeah. I think that's the only effective scene, necessarily, in this film.
Because everything else is pretty laughable in this movie.
Oh, God! It's so slow. It's so slow.
It is. It's very slow.
But...
the scenes don't end when they're supposed to.
It's just...
Well, thankfully... her stalker was following her on her way home when these two men attempt to sexually assault her.
Right.
And he saves her. So that's I'm glad he saved her.
Adam
At the same time, what we find out is that he follows her home every night without her knowing it.
And
more on that later.
Yes.
That is the first step of their romance.
But like MJ's about to say, there's a lot of red flags.
There is so many red flags.
Yes. Agreed. So,
what's the first one?
Well, the first one I would think is that he does not talk.
He doesn't talk!
He doesn't talk. He just kind of looks at her and stares.
Like, you feel like he doesn't really like her?
Would you say he's baboon-like?
Okay, shut up with that! Baboon. I'm sorry, no. I can't believe this was one of Mom's favorite movies back in the day. It's so weird. I would think, we have the first red flag for him? Yeah, not talking, but, what about,
sitting there like a tuna.
Like a tuna. Which, by the way, this movie is so quotable, I had to take notes on my phone.
It's great.
What was the one that you took down?
Let's see, okay, mine was, my life is like watching the Three Stooges in Spanish.
That is a good one.
Which admittedly would be confusing, I guess.
It is confusing. Especially for someone that doesn't speak Spanish.
The one that, I think the quote that confused me the most is you had to be barfing up things your grandma ate. Said by one of the almost rapists. Willie Garson, which, by the way, is so weird. It's so weird. I'm sorry. Stanford Blatch would never say something like that. But, so, yeah, stuff like that I just think were really weird. But, like, this movie, there are so many elements of creepiness in it from minute one. Minute one. Imagine you have been sleeping in your bed, and all of a sudden you wake up and there's a Christmas tree at the end of your bed.
Just random, yeah.
Just random.
Christmas tree.
This guy dismantles her dad's Christmas tree downstairs and puts a fresh one up in her bedroom.
All without her knowing, while she's asleep, while her family's asleep.
No one heard him. And again, I don't know if you've ever had to carry a live Christmas tree somewhere. And again, we're going up an entire flight of steps with that.
Yeah.
You can't tell me.
He had to have gone up one ornament at a time so they didn't bang into each other.
What does she say if she wakes up in the middle of this?
Oh my god, right?
Like, if he does jostle something that causes her to wake up.
What? And the fact that I get it, like, when he found her, he brought her home, he covered up in his coat, put her on the fucking swing set out in below zero temperatures.
It's like 3 degrees outside.
And then he
This is after he rescues her from the attempted rape. She's unconscious.
Right.
Kyle Secor has knocked her unconscious.
Yep. And the great Kyle Secor.
The great Kyle Secor. Knocks her unconscious. He carries her home. Her top's still unzipped.
Yeah. Yeah. He's could have zipped it for her.
I mean,
maybe that's too creepy.
That would be too creepy, yeah.
But he gets her back there, doesn't knock on a door, again, no one believes in going to the hospital at all here.
About this, just sets her down outside in 3-degree temperatures.
Then proceeds to watch her sleep until she wakes up
on the porch.
Yep.
And then creepily walks away without saying a fucking word.
Yep.
Like a fucking weirdo.
Just stares at her. And then walks away. He's got the weirdest hair in this movie.
He does.
She does. She waits till the next day at work to confront him about this.
Right. Yeah. She even says, "How do you know
Not even
where
the next
I
day.
live?"
It was like a week later because she stayed away. She stayed away from work for like a week. She
called off sick. Which again, you've been through that kind of trauma. Fuck yeah, you're staying home.
I get it.
Right.
But then the first thing she does is she confronts him about this.
Yeah, I thought she was going to start yelling at him, and I'm like, okay. First, I was like, but he saved you, and then second, I'm like, no, that's true.
Yeah.
You know,
why were you here?
How did he know where she lived?
And how do you know where I live? And it turns out he's been following her home every night for a long time now.
Mm-hmm.
He says it's to make sure she gets home okay. And given what happens, yeah, I guess.
Okay. I don't like it.
But then we find out later that he's also been sneaking into her house and watching her sleep during that time as well. Before
I wanted you to tell that story. Wait, so you've been watching? Yeah, because I know you were ready to say it. You're like, but he was watching her sleep.
Yeah, he was watching her sleep, and it was just like, oh no, no.
There's again. Back in the 90s, and I especially think during this period of time, especially since I was like a teenager when this movie came out, all I can think is like, I could have written a better script than this, and it wouldn't be nearly as creepy. I don't know, there was something about probably women from the age of 24 to 45 that thought this movie was fucking romantic,
That is the thing. Like,
I don't get it.
If you don't understand that women have been getting gaslighted for like ever about men, about what is supposedly romantic. Like, it's been decades of this shit that women have had to put up with, being told that this type of behavior is romantic.
Yeah.
Where he's just the strong, silent type who sneaks into your room and watches you sleep. No, not okay. Not okay.
Never has been okay.
Never has been. Never will be. No. If you're some kind of incel listening to this going, that is totally my move. What are you talking about?
That's a great idea. How else could you creep out a woman? I'm just going to start watching her sleep every night.
I mean, I do it naked, but come on. She wakes up, he's got no pants on.
Oh my God! But see, no, that's like what would happen now. Because incels have identified themselves. So...
Yeah.
Christian Slater at least keeps his pants on, as far as we know.
We can appreciate that.
Canonically, he is fully clothed while watching her sleep.
Honestly, as far as sex scenes go, he gets a good, handful of boobs.
Oh.
And then he cries afterwards, which again...
So let me set the scene here. This is the big romantic moment they're having together. She'd gone to his apartment, and then she's like, "Can I cut your hair?"
Like you do.
Like you do. She washes his hair in the sink in the most uncomfortable manner imaginable. Like he's just breaking his back to get his head into the sink.
It literally hurt my neck looking at it.
and then they go to do the cut, like in another room, and she's just about to cut his hair, and he just reaches up, uncharacteristic of anything at all, just reaches up, boob, hand on boob.
Uninvited. Again, he's not talking, so it's even creepier.
He's barely said a word. He's just kind of staring at her chest for a little bit, and then hand, boob.
And like at first, I thought he was gonna go up and just grab the cheek kind of thing.
Yeah, like a romantic cheek touch.
Yeah, but then it's just
goes straight to boob. Titties, here I come.
But of course, as any woman would, she finds this completely romantic.
Totally turned on.
Course, yeah.
Yeah, like her breathing becomes labored there for a second, and all of a sudden she's like, let's go to the bedroom, and then they're off.
Yeah, then she full-on Marisa Tomei boobs.
And then he takes his shirt off, and then he breaks down in tears once he looks at her boobs.
Yeah.
And she has to hold him like a mom and cradle him.
It's so romantic.
And that's how the scene ends. If a guy did that to me, you gotta go. You gotta go. I don't want salt water on my breasts. You fucking baby. No, I'm sorry.
I guess contextually, he has at this point told her that he thinks he has a baboon heart. So at this point, she does think he's kind of, special in some way.
Well, it's weird. So he has a baboon heart.
Yes.
And she has squirrels in her stomach. Actual quote.
She has squirrels in her stomach.
Actual quote.
That's what he makes her feel like, is that she has squirrels in her stomach.
And he's also considered a tuna. Actual quote. What the fuck was this movie? And they keep mentioning this guy in one scene, Bobby Las Vegas, and all I kept thinking was Jackie Daytona.
Yes.
Because it's so like a Matt Berry character.
It really
Bobby
is.
Las Vegas.
He's the only guy in Minnesota who had actually been to Las Vegas. He'd only been there one time on a layover.
He didn't even go down and gamble. He just looked at it from a window. So whenever I say I went to Dallas, I literally sat in the airport. I never went to Dallas.
Now he gets back and he's Bobby Las Vegas.
Bobby Las Vegas.
That's how it works.
You know Bobby.
Yeah.
Bobby Las Vegas.
Well, his motorcycle. He put it down, tried to avoid that squirrel. This is a scene in this movie.
Yeah.
These are characters who have never been introduced before. Just sitting there telling her the day she comes back from her time off.
Yeah.
About Bobby, what happened to Bobby Las Vegas. So we got to hear this.
I was wondering.
Yeah, and these two characters, they're both named Billy.
Bill, and they both have their mugs that say Bill in different font.
Yes.
Yeah?
Which is like
One's
do they
in boldface.
come there that often that
They
you
get their own cup.
Did they bring the mugs, or are they
I hope that they just
there?
keep them there.
Yeah,
They
I
just
would think
bought them those mugs?
I used to keep Doctor Who, shot glasses at Howard's. Because I never knew when I wanted to have
you
a
were
shot.
a bartender.
I was a bartender.
Yes, so that makes a little bit more sense. Just like regulars, you just have cups for your regulars.
That's
Bill.
That's the only way he's comfortable. He just walks in with his mug and sets it down. This is me. I'm Bill.
Now see?
Coffee.
That's so Midwestern, though. A white male thinking that he has the entitlement. Bill number 1, Bill number 2.
I love this place because everybody knows your name. Your name's on your coffee mug. You want you here.
It's also the easiest name to remember.
It's
so,
true.
You know,
well, the director's name is,
Tony Bill.
Tony Bill.
I wonder if those were his mugs.
I bet they were.
Could be.
They said Tony on the back of them. Just never saw him. So anyway, you try to establish it like it's, Minneapolis, okay, if you've ever been there, it's not a homey small town city. It's huge. And, they're just like in this one little subsection of it, which is the dirtiest subsection, especially where Adam lives. He lives in he's squatting in a basement.
Basically.
That is leaking water, that has silverfish everywhere.
Well, allow me to set the scene, because this is a weird scene. She's come back now, and she's obviously very paranoid. She doesn't want to walk home. She's told her brother to come pick her up after her shift, which ends at 2 a.m.
Yes.
He doesn't show up. So now she has to walk home. But thankfully, her stalker is ready to walk home as well. He then
Perfect timing.
He then does walk her to his house.
Yes.
Not hers. His house. Walks her to his house. Invites her in for ice cream.
Mind you, it's 2 a.m.
It's 2 o'clock in the morning.
You're fucking tired.
And then proceeds to take off his jacket and have a seat and start eating ice cream. And then she's like, gotta go.
Gotta go.
Walk home by myself now, which is what I didn't want to fucking do.
Yeah, but I wanted his apartment to have like smell-o-vision though, because it felt like, have you ever been to like a really old library in their basement and it just smells like mold and sadness? Because that's what I imagined this room smelled like.
He's got wet books everywhere.
So that's why she wanted to get the fuck out of there,
Yeah.
I think. But then they ended up having sex in there, so now she probably has...
Eventually. They had sex at her house, actually.
No, they had sex at his house later.
Did they?
Yeah, because you can see his books behind him.
But, so then she does leave. And then, because this is more comfortable for him, apparently, he decides to follow her home.
Yeah. It's easier to be the stalker. The stalker in me needs to follow you 10 feet
Contextually,
behind.
that's a little easier for him. That's the same night that he also breaks in and puts up the Christmas tree. Which, by the way, her reaction the next day when she's like thanking him for the Christmas tree, I'm so glad you remembered.
Yeah.
Christmas? I'm so glad you remembered Christmas.
They don't have Christmas at the nunnery.
Well, okay, that was the thing. So I kept trying to remind myself, I'm like, okay, did they have a conversation that she loved Christmas trees? Like, I don't remember that.
There was the point where because he worked with Christmas trees and he always smelled like Christmas trees.
Oh.
And she
so
said
he
something
remembered
about
that he smelled like Christmas trees. Because now that makes sense.
Yeah. Let the scent of this tree remind you of me.
Yeah. So wait, and this is the first time she's at that place, and she didn't even know that he had a dog. His dog comes rushing up, and she's like, "Oh, what's your dog's name?" And he goes, "I don't know. He never told me." And he basically said it like that too. Like there was no life in it.
No joke, really. Like you can't tell if this guy's kidding or not.
Yeah. Or
like that may be an actual thing that he thinks.
I really think he's on the spectrum.
I think he meant it.
Yep.
He meant this dog and
never told me. Never told me. We're gonna call that dog Claire from now on. Claire.
In tribute to Loaded Weapon. I think the dog's real name is Jürgen Prochnow.
I think it is.
Yes.
If it's not yet, it is now.
It makes sense for the time when everyone was naming their dog Jürgen Prochnow.
Named their dog Jürgen back then. My dog right here is named Jürgen.
Couldn't go 10 feet without meeting a dog named Jürgen.
Oh my god.
No.
It's crazy 90s.
A small child.
Named Jürgen. Yeah.
Named
So
Jürgen.
many
There's like 5 of them in my
days.
kindergarten class. Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah.
So, yeah, they montage us a couple times. They hang out a lot.
They do. I guess they buy a car together.
Which I did,
That's
okay.
a perfectly normal thing.
And then the cars were so big.
Was
So big. It was
Was
93. We had like little hatchbacks by then.
the car in tribute to I'm never going to be sexually assaulted again?
Yes. I think you're right.
I think we also missed at some point they just moved in together.
Did they?
I was confused about that.
Well, so she was saying, we're home now. And so I was just like, okay, well, I'm assuming that they both lived there then, and they were both going back to the same place.
But he was still he still seemed uncertain about how she felt. Like, he gives these monologues where, of course, he has to pause so long in between every word that she literally gets confused and starts answering questions.
Because he stops.
In the middle of his pause.
Absolutely.
And he has to go back and say, no, I wasn't done yet. Multiple times.
Speed it up! He has many Ethan Hawke from Reality Bites moments here. She says,
I love you, and he goes, and his response is, well, I'm not sure. Do you think maybe... No, wait. Do you think maybe you love me half as much as I love you?
See, and that was almost as long as it was. I think you shortened it just a little bit. God, that took forever.
And you really did.
This is after she says, I love you. Like, dude, she just said, I love you. And he still seems confused. His look of confusion, by the way, is the thing that should be on the poster because he's confused by everything.
You look at it, he kind of does look confused on the front.
She says to him at one point, I brought back your jacket. And he just looks like...
Like he'd never heard of a jacket before, ever.
Jacket. What is jacket?
Searching.
Jacket.
The
warm thing in the cold.
How do you go from, like, having so much charisma... Shut up! Jurgen, get over here. How do you go from having so much charisma, like Christian Slater had, and pump up the volume,
cuffs.
and then it's like, oh, by the way, you barely have any lines in this movie.
When we hired Christian Slater, let's have him not talk. Let's give him a fully silent character for this guy who's known for his monologues and his intensity. Because that won't be weird. That intensity won't be weird when he's just not saying any fucking thing at all.
No, why would
it? You're basically just stealing all of the life out of Christian Slater, and you're repackaging him and selling him to us like at half price here. It was just... And the soundtrack,
the sound of this movie.
Oh, the sound design was horrible.
Sound design, they clearly, worse than this show.
Yep. Yeah. And that's saying something. It sounded like they were in a tin can the entire movie.
It sounded like they were recording on the mic on the camera for every scene. Like they lost the mics, like the mics that they were using in the room, they lost that. They had to use the onboard mic for everything.
They couldn't afford a boom mic. Well, I mean, it only cost $6 million to make this film. And then none of that went to the boom mics or any sort of thing.
But yeah, you mentioned the soundtrack. The soundtrack is hilarious. Because every song has to be about what you're seeing. So
yeah.
Like the character, like he's got a baboon heart. Canonically, he is baboon.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the movie opens with the song Nature Boy by Nat King Cole. But then smash cuts to Tom's Diner because why? Marisa Tomei works at a diner.
She does. And then after all of that scene, there's Bad Boys.
Because the song Bad Boys is on they're playing it in the diner on a what do you call that? A jukebox? Yeah. And of course it's because he's kind of a bad boy. You see?
Oh yeah, he is the baddest boy.
He's a bad boy. He's brooding.
Every girl
He's brooding.
wants.
I love the brooding tuna.
Literally call him a tuna.
I mean, we had to rewind it just to hear it again. That's the same with the squirrel line.
That's Rosie Perez too.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what.
Sitting over there like a tuna.
Like a tuna. The ultimate line, my favorite line, is Magic Records and a Baboon Heart.
You almost got me believing, yeah.
He don't make sense. I don't make sense. Together we make sense.
Where's the Minnesota part? Marisa Tomei, that dodgy Minnesotan accent.
She really got the heart in the
tried
parts. She
so
did
hard.
try.
Like, I love Marisa Tomei, and she's doing her damnedest, but, like, her trying to pull off Minnesota is just a little bit much.
You can't overdo it.
It's not Marge Gunderson.
She does. It sounds like she wants to be Marge
Sounds
Gunderson.
like she's doing Marge Gunderson on stage at the Comedy Store.
So we know the sound design was bad. ADR was terrible.
Oh,
Yes.
And you pointed that one out. Was it when they were walking?
Yes, it was when they were walking down the set of stairs, and it's just like, he looks like he's saying something completely different to what...
He's like chewing something. He's not even like talking.
He's fully silent. He doesn't talk. This is inner monologue that you can hear.
Oh yeah, they're communicating telepathically.
Oh no, that's terrible.
It's so romantic, though. You know, when she's wishing upon a star. When she wishes upon a star.
And she wishes upon a planet.
That's Mars.
That's Mars.
You just fucking moron.
You just wished on Mars. You dumb fucking idiots.
Screenwriters, a little tip for you. If you want to be romantic, just start talking about stars.
Stars. That's true.
That's
every movie.
Women love stars.
Stars and men just being in their bedrooms at night watching them sleep.
Oh God!
Nothing more romantic.
Every time I think about that, and I even showed Sean what I look like when I'm sleeping. Usually there's drool, like my pillow's wet.
Like she's snoring really. Can you imagine she's got sleep apnea, so it's just him.
She keeps making those cutesy noises in her sleep.
He's kind of worried, like he might have to start her breathing again.
Be better. No, she's on a CPAP machine when she goes. Shh, Jurgen, get over here. Oh my God.
You know, it just reminds me of what someone would think if they watched my roommate sleeping. Oh. She sleeps face down, like, and then with her feet bent at the knees up in the air.
Yeah. Sean used to have... No, Sean's friend David used to do that in grade school. Well, and your roommate also sleeps with her eyes open, too, which is fucking weird.
Well, she doesn't sleep with her eyes open. If someone comes in, her eyes will open automatically to look at them, but she's not actually awake.
She's still... It's weird. It's fucking weird. Now, see, that would be funny if you walked in on her like that. Like, that would be fucking funny.
Canonically, Christian Slater is her sleep demon.
Sleep paralysis demon. Yes, indeed. I agree. Yeah, so, I mean, again, sound, ADR sucked, soundtrack sucked, aside from the... I love
Nature
Tom's
Boy's
Diner.
a beautiful song. In Moulin Rouge, John Leguizamo sings it.
Yeah.
And he's singing it about Ewan McGregor, who's really sad. It's right at the opening of the film. It's beautiful.
Right. It is gorgeous. And I like that. And I like Tom's Diner just because that's like... REM covered that. You know, it's like it's one of those things that just means a lot to me.
But the use of it is very funny.
It is, because she works at a diner. You get it?
Yeah.
You get it? Yeah. And you put two and two together. Well, and it was a remix, too, because that song had come out a couple years earlier than that, and they did the remix of it. But, you know, what we're forgetting is Rosie Perez, who we adore.
So Minnesota. Rosie
God.
When you think of Minneapolis,
I think of Rosie Perez.
Think of Rosie Perez.
I do have to say, I love that she was very much Rosie in this.
She's not putting on an accent. No. There's no Minnesota accent here.
And she's again, great actress. I love her. She was in Fearless with Jeff Bridges, and they just worked so beautifully together in that film. But we were all thinking, like, their relationship, like, Marisa Tomei and Rosie Perez should have been together. Like, they had more chemistry together.
They did.
I mean, they flirted better.
Yeah, they flirted better.
They had
an ice skating date.
They would get, like, close to each other, like, physically, and you're like, I know female friendships are close, but, like...
No, but this is like Kiss Her. Kiss Her!
This was like, they had their chemistry speaking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just better, because Christian Slater can't talk in the movie.
Yeah. And Rosie's favorite, or the best line of Rosie's was early on when she was talking to... And their boss is fucking worthless at the diner.
Seriously.
He hates all of his employees. He hates everybody there.
It's like, why do you own this business?
Right. But she says to her boss, she's like, you are like wet sand in my underwear. And I thought, I had to put that in like bold face because it cracked me up.
So... I want to talk about she invites him over for New Year's Eve, and in the move that honestly I can identify with a little bit, he shows up and doesn't go inside or tell her that he's there. He just sits down on her porch and pets a cat, and apparently he'd been doing that for 2 hours.
Yeah.
When she finally realized that he was there. When she finally realizes that he was there, Like, she goes out to see him and talk to him, and he's like, yeah, I got here about 10, and it's almost midnight. So he's been sitting on the porch just petting a cat.
Now, that's me at every party,
in Minnesota winter for 2 hours.
New Year's Eve, you know it's fucking freezing out there.
It's gotta be like 10 degrees
I don't really want to see my girlfriend, but I'm fine with her cat.
I can't stand crowds. Let's go to the hockey game.
Yeah.
Stop. It's like, yeah, I won't even go inside a New Year's Eve party, but
he has
big stadium.
Give me that arena. Yeah.
Of course, that did kill him.
That did kill him.
It did.
Too much stimuli.
Spoiler alert, he dies.
Yeah, we probably should have told you that at the beginning.
Like,
we should have led with that.
he dies, right? He could get, like, they tell him, okay, the rapists come back and they stab him. Mm-hmm. They beat him up and they stab him in the gut.
Yeah.
And he goes to the hospital, and the stabbing is not the problem. His heart is the problem.
Right.
Gets stabbed in the gut, but hey, it's fine. It's fine. His heart is the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's got a congenital heart problem because it's a baboon heart, you see.
That's just a story.
Magical rubies.
Magical rubies.
Is that just a story?
How do you explain magical rubies?
He lived in the jungle, Amy.
That whole thing about... Can you just imagine ripping out your own heart and be like, here, you have mine, you know? Yeah, just throw it in his open chest wound. How would you even do that?
It's like someone open his chest and take out his heart. I'm going to throw this in a few seconds, but I'm going to not that quick.
I'm going to need a moment to get my heart out of my own chest. Also, I'm a baboon trying to tell you this.
Right. Wild Kingdom presents.
Fucking baboon tore my kid's chest open and threw his whole heart into it. What the fuck?
He's got heartworm.
His dad's perspective on the story must be wild.
Oh my god. The fact that Adam is an orphan and Rosie Perez's character says, I've never met an orphan before. It was like the weirdest line. You've never, ever met a kid who
She's
didn't
never
have
met a
parents.
Dickensian orphan who lived on the streets and panhandled
A
and stole
tuppence,
wallets.
please. Just a tuppence.
You know, I think all of them live in the nunnery. They all live in the nunnery.
Which, again, the opening to that film is still, like, that sepia tone stayed throughout this film until we got Marisa Tomei, like, wearing red or lipstick. It was like, oh, God, finally somebody looks bold in this film.
Finally somebody wiped off the lens.
Yeah.
Of the
So much Vaseline. Oh, God. Yeah, so...
He could live, though. So
he could live.
If he got a heart transplant, that he could live. But he tells her that he's worried that if he got a different heart, he wouldn't love her the same.
That's not how love works.
And she explained that to him, but he still didn't get it.
Then why... But wait, MJ, why does it hurt here when you're not around?
Oh, God.
And he holds his chest.
That's...
Oh,
and then she holds his chest.
God. The earnestness.
We kept waiting for her to kiss the scar, but she never did.
I'm very glad that it didn't happen.
I wanted her to lick the scar.
Oh, God.
No,
When
it's got
two become
baboon
one.
germs on it.
That is a trope that can go away.
It's in my
That's
fan
fine.
fiction.
I think they do that in Lethal Weapon, actually.
Oh, no,
I think they do.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Like, don't they lick each other's scars? Like, that's a thing? Like,
Yeah.
after they go through, they do this whole thing, like they did in Loaded Weapon, where he showed off all of his wounds and she showed off all her wounds.
That's right.
In Lethal Weapon, he and Rene Russo are, like, showing off each other's, like, things that have happened to them. I got stabbed here, I got shot here. And then they start making out, and the thing is, like, the whole trip is, like, going over each other's bodies.
That's... No.
I don't know.
Grab your safety animal.
Perito!
You know, it's even funnier since in Loaded Weapon, they didn't actually sleep together.
Yeah.
They only smoked. For a minute.
Great bit.
Oh,
when
my
you were
God.
talking about that one, yeah. That's a great show. Going back to Loaded Weapon, because it's so much better than this movie.
So much better.
Like, they show them in bed, getting into bed together to have sex. They cut to a clock that says 12:10, and then a clock that says 12:11.
Like, within seconds.
And it goes back.
Hands back and they're smoking cigarettes like they had
so
the best
good.
sex of their life. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Sorry, anyway, sex scenes in this movie were not like that at all.
No.
No.
Because the first one is just him basically pre-ejaculating.
That's it. And crying.
He sees her boobs, he comes immediately.
And cries.
And then she holds him while he cries. Which is, I know, very relatable to so many of you. But technically speaking, that's not how this works.
No.
When it goes well, it's not like that.
Just thinking, there's this show called Misfits, and there's this line where he says, "Have you ever had a crank?" What's a crank? It's crying when you're wanking. You can imagine who says it.
Oh,
so good. It's so good.
100%.
That just reminded me of that. Sexuality, sex, and all of its greatness makes everybody cry.
But canonically, this guy, first of all, he was born in a jungle. Because that's where he got the baboon heart.
I just don't believe that.
He was born in a jungle and then raised in a nunnery for most of his life, and then apparently went right to working at a tree store, and he's
a busboy.
And a busboy at a diner. He's canonically here, I would assume he's a virgin. So he has no idea what anything. That's why the boob thing is like really surprising. Like he knew what to do in that moment.
Well, okay, yeah. But
I'm a man. I like boobs. Boobs.
Honk. We basically did. He just
honestly, like,
it was like honk.
It was like a little honk. It was.
I don't. What confuses the fuck out of me, and as somebody who knows about heart issues and congestive heart failure, things like that, how did going to a hockey game stimulate him so much to kill him, but yet sex didn't kill him at all?
Fine.
Your heart rate goes very high.
Again, we saw how he has sex. It's
just cries.
It's a moment with his pants on, looking at boobs, and crying.
But we infer later on that they did the dirty.
Maybe.
Twice.
I mean, you're assuming. We didn't see it.
They could have just cried again.
He could have been wearing a full jeans and shoes in that scene. We just took off his shoes.
I just would break up with him. You know? Yeah, no sex for you.
She doesn't break up with him after he romantically confesses that even before they'd actually spoken,
he'd been breaking into her house
and watching her sleep every night.
Fucking creep. It's so romantic. It's so romantic. I hate it.
But, like, why is that? Tell me why that's a romantic fantasy from this. Like, it lasts even through, like, Twilight. Like,
yeah. You know what it reminded me of? You know the thing that you wrote about, like, the dying ingenue? I was getting a little bit of that kind of a vibe. Like, especially in the 90s, we would write these movies where, whether it was a man or a woman, it's like, of course they're going to die at the end, because why can't anyone be happy, you know? But I started thinking about that. It's like, I don't know, it would be a more interesting story if we would have had him in the jungle and then the nunnery. Like, I would have been curious.
That is a more interesting story than what we see.
Right.
Like, being told that as opposed to actually seeing some of that.
And then have Rosie Perez be one of the nuns. Like, I just would have rewritten this entire film. I'm sorry.
I want you to cast your mind back to a night where before they've even met, where he gets at her house about 2:30, makes sure that she's gone to bed, gets inside however he gets inside, and then from about 2:30 in the morning until about whenever she wakes up around 9 a.m., he's just there. So, and this is pre-cell phone. Right. So, like, what? He's not sitting there playing, like, Roblox on his phone or some shit. Like, he's not on Twitter just scrolling.
No.
So he's just sitting there just
staring at
her.
At least bring a fucking magazine.
Bring a book or something, man. Like, what do you do? I think writers don't think about this stuff. They don't take the time to consider this.
It's the writers that think that it's romantic, too.
Funny thing, the movie The Hider in the House with Gary Busey thought of this. They thought of this, and they had him, Gary Busey's living in their attic. He's created a room for himself in the attic of his home.
And no one knows he's there?
Nobody knows he's there.
Ew.
And he sneaks down at night and sneaks into Mia Rogers' bedroom and watches her sleep. And what happens is he falls asleep watching her sleep, and her kid comes in to wake her up, like, Mom. And he just narrowly just slips out of the room just in time.
If you ever catch a Gary Busey in your attic, you need to call Crime Stoppers.
It doesn't go well.
That's terrifying. It'd be worse if it was Nick Nolte.
There's a great. Not to get off on a hider in the house tangent, but there's a scene where like Mia Rogers discovers his little thing in the attic, his little house in the attic, and he's sneaking up behind her, and he's out of focus, but you know it's Gary Busey because you can see his bright white teeth.
Oh, they're so big. They're so big.
Even out of focus, you can see his teeth.
What year was that movie?
I don't know. It might be coming up this year. I don't know.
Shut up. Mia Rogers is still making movies?
Mimi Rogers.
Oh, Mimi Rogers.
Yeah.
Mia Rogers.
Michael McKean's her husband.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Wow, they were both on The X-Files.
Credit to Alison Pregler and Phalis for that movie.
Oh, God.
That's one of theirs that I watched. It's really fantastic.
Wow, so that's a new movie. Like, so these ideas that... Just let a rando into your house to watch you sleep. I mean,
no, nobody's letting him in.
Oh, no one knows.
Not let in. They're sneaking in.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
But again, to be fair to Hider in the House, he does that without telling anybody, and he is a creep who ends up trying to murder them. So it's normal. That wouldn't make sense.
Wow.
Here, it's supposed to be romantic. Christian Slater's basically doing the same fucking thing. And it's supposed to be fucking romantic.
Yeah. So you know that Stephenie Meyer watched this and said, that's what my vampire is going to do. That's true.
Yeah.
You know it because, I mean, he does the very same thing.
He does.
I mean, the thing is, like, he can, like, fly into her, her bedroom, and then they try to have sex, and he throws her across the room. And that was kind of hot, though, I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm into that. I was into that. I wasn't into this movie. It's like, no, because...
Where are we getting this from again?
Twilight.
Oh, when does he throw her across the room?
Remember, she goes up, like, they start kissing, they're making out, and he's feeling it, and he's feeling it, and he had to throw her, remember? And she went up against the wall and then down on her
Because he was
bed.
going to bite her.
Yeah, because he was really getting into it.
I don't remember that part. I haven't watched the movies in a while, though. It's been a while.
Yeah, there's no reason to watch them. They're not any good.
I had a Twilight party once.
You did.
I was almost 30.
You had full Twilight cutouts.
I did. We took pictures of him, and then we drank margaritas until he passed out.
We were gonna have a Twilight weekend.
We were gonna.
You can make that your Super Bowl.
Shut up! We're just gonna watch Untamed Heart 4 times. Now that I know Stephenie Meyer ripped it off. I'm gonna make a movie called Red Flag Man.
I mean, the dialogue makes sense.
It does. It absolutely does.
This feels like the kind of thing Stephenie Meyer could write.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like I said, if I could write this at 12, Stephenie Meyer could write this at 40. Or 50, or whatever she is. Jurgen, get over here.
There's a scene in this movie where they just talk about fishing for like 2 minutes. Like, remember that? We're watching this movie, and they just like go into talking about fishing gear.
Wait, in this movie?
In this movie, you don't remember that?
I think I fell asleep.
It was the Bills. The Bills were talking about fishing gear.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I didn't really care about the Bills as much as you did.
No, it was...
They were talking about, yeah, because she was getting stuff. Oh, she was putting coffee in the coffee maker. That was the best scene. I think.
This movie needed to be an hour and 47 minutes long.
I want the Bills to have their own sitcom.
By the way, once again, just to credit Loaded Weapon, hour 23 minutes, fucking genius.
Fucking genius. You know what? That movie got to the point, made us care about it, and then left us happy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amen.
Amen.
Unlike this movie, which has left us happy in all the wrong ways.
All the wrong ways. Like sand in my underpants.
Untamed Heart is like sand in your underpants.
Wet sand.
Wet sand. Specifically, that's the key. The key point is it's wet sand.
Wet sand.
Yes.
Because that is worse, I guess.
Oh, it feels weird when I'm thinking about it, I'm telling you.
It's evocative.
You'll never get it all out, though.
It's a bad thought. It's
Yep.
a bad thought.
Imagine, like,
I can only imagine
shaving.
that's even worse for a woman.
It's gonna get up in there. But then, you know, if you were a dude, you're gonna get those granules up in places you don't want them to be. Like wet sand in my underpants.
Think about these things before you write them.
I
mean, just take a minute. Just take a minute and think about what you're implying here.
Hire an editor.
I mean,
or 5.
Yes.
They did. He only edits on the sound of Marisa Tomei's guttural noises.
I love you. Aunt May, but God! So bad.
Oh, this movie.
Yeah, I'm not going to miss it.
Whew. Yeah, it's something.
It is.
I mean, at least they weren't really... There's not like a really sweaty sex scene.
No, and I was bummed out about that. Because, I mean, if you're going to be bad, at least be moist.
Nobody's moist in Minnesota. It's too cold. It is way too cold to be moist.
I know, but he
dries
lived
everything out
in that wet basement. You'd think somebody's going to get wet somehow.
Surrounded by silverfish.
There's so many silverfish down there.
Well, you know, it was raining at one point. Like, you thought it was winter, and then it started raining.
He had buckets on his bed. Yeah, when she said it stopped.
Yeah, she said it
you
stopped,
pointed that
and it was
out.
just like...
The sound design is fantastic. She says, "Oh, it stopped raining," and then you hear the rain stop.
Yeah, like right then. That's when they all in the crew had to get tetanus shots from filming in that fucking place. God.
Ice cream containers everywhere.
So much disease.
Every time she comes over, he offers her ice cream.
Yeah,
every time.
Every time.
Like he's a fucking 12-year-old.
And
like this is.
And she always responds and like she's always just kind of like ice cream. like she did that. It was really weird.
It's like, what is so confusing or conflicting about ice cream?
In defense of Marisa Tomei, I think she had to make her character dumber to justify his character.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree.
That's why she's wishing upon Mars. And
I do that a lot, though.
I think she had to act down to the performance that he's giving.
She had to carry this movie on her back like a boulder. Because no one else was going to do it.
No.
No one else was going to do it.
She's so adorable.
She's adorable.
She's completely adorable.
Completely beautiful. Again,
I mean,
great actress, but...
Absolutely wrong movie to follow my Cousin Vinny.
Right?
Like, the complete wrong movie. Like, I guess she's not a teenager, but, like, they don't know how to paint this character in a believable way. She lives with her parents, but she's also, like, a cosmetology student, I guess.
Yeah, which we don't really get a whole... We get, like, one line about it, and then she goes in for an exam.
Yeah.
And then she fails that.
There's this woman just pointlessly pulling focus about, don't cut my hair too short. She's got, like, 3 fucking hairs on her head, by the way.
Seriously.
Dude, you're
like
lucky
the
if I...
shortest thing.
Right.
And she's
Don't
just
go
like...
too short.
No, I don't
One
want it too
strand,
short.
man.
It's too cold.
Yeah.
Every time she goes to cut something, don't do too short.
You should get your manager. All right, Karen.
Lady, you're wearing a wig.
Yeah.
When you leave here, you're going to be wearing a wig, so it's not going to matter.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't
She's
matter.
balding. This woman is balding.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean she can't have her hair cut. Her hair's cut.
I mean, you need to trim it to get it under the wig.
Yeah, that's true. That's
she
true.
shouldn't be upset.
No, but yeah, I mean, and then she had a weird friend there all of a sudden that seemed like he'd been in the film the entire time.
Yeah, he was just like talking like
main
knew
character
everything.
energy coming off of that guy.
Totally. Like all of a sudden she's like, I forgot what she even said, but he's like, it's all right, you know, like they've been. We should have known this character for. I think he was in it, and then they cut his scenes.
His name is Leon.
Yeah. You know what? Later on, he went on to open his own boutique.
Yeah. She came to visit, got her hair done there.
Her hair done.
They had a whole life outside of this movie.
Now, see, I would watch that as a sequel.
Yes.
Because you know why? Christian Slater's character's dead.
He dies.
And she can move on maybe with a guy who has a normal heart.
She only dates men who have baboon hearts. It's a fetish, actually.
It's a new thing
This is
for
actually...
her.
This awoken something in her
wow.
that she didn't know was there. And it's a love of men with baboon hearts and the brains of 12-year-olds.
Can I get some blood work before we go out on our first date?
You have to have the emotional intelligence of a 12-year-old and a baboon heart. Otherwise, she can't reach climax.
Can you cry on my chest for a couple minutes?
Oh, God.
Now that, I would watch a movie just about that.
This is the Neil Jordan version. David Lynch's Untamed Heart.
I would love that film.
The heart bursts out of Christian Slater's chest, and she just cradles it. That's the end of the movie.
So dark. But it would be better than this movie.
It would be better than this.
You know, I kept.
She raises the heart like a little eraserhead baby.
Oh my god!
Until she finds a man she can shove it into like the baboon did.
Shut up, I know this trick. Have you ever heard of baboons?
Let me get a screwdriver and open your chest. Sideways.
Rusty spoon.
I mean, given the angle of the cut on his chest.
It looks like a rusty spoon.
Apparently somebody did that with a spoon.
I would watch this if it's just as you described it. Untamed
We're
Heart.
making a better movie.
I kept thinking, I'm like, why don't I remember certain scenes? You know what movie I was thinking about? Bed of fucking Roses.
Yeah.
Which is also another
Christian
cheesy
Slater.
Christian Slater movie.
Yeah, that was terrible.
It was awful.
Unwatchable.
Oh, God.
Gave us that awful Bon Jovi song.
Oh, Bed of Roses.
What a piece of shit that was.
Oh, God.
Just a total sellout ballad. Ugh.
Didn't he die in that movie?
Oh, he probably did.
I'm sure Christian Slater died in that movie.
The movie we haven't talked about that is the kind of a
He
similar...
died in Young Guns, too.
The movie we haven't talked about that's similar to this one is Return to Me.
Yeah.
All right, and which is the premise of this movie is wild, MJ. The premise is that David Duchovny's wife dies, and her heart is given to Minnie Driver to save her life.
Mm-hmm.
And then Minnie Driver finds David Duchovny, and they fall in love because she's got his wife's heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let me just say...
How is that not fucking creepy?
It is creepy, but in the defense of that film, it was far more lighthearted. I liked the characters better.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Minnie Driver is a delight in anything that she does.
Absolute delight. And I think the soundtrack was better on that one, too. And the sound design on it was much better, I'm sure.
They probably recorded with something other than the onboard mic.
This movie ended up going on to make $64 million in the box office.
Not a bad number.
No. And that, well, I mean, again, if you're looking for... you can't even call it a rom-com.
No.
It's just a romantic tragedy.
Yeah.
It's a jungle tragedy.
Very strange. I was almost sure that in the end she was going to end up pregnant with a baboon baby.
I would watch that movie.
I was very sure that was going to happen.
Well, she was wearing this really heavy shirt once in the scene, and it looked like she was pregnant.
That was during the montage, so you
Yeah.
just expected they'd been together for 7 years by that point.
Yeah.
Or it felt like the film felt like it had been on for 7 years.
It had gone on for a while at that point.
It went on for too long.
This
I've
movie
known these people for a very long time.
it feels
intimate with them
very
now.
long at times.
Oh my God.
Directed by Tony Bill.
Tony Bill.
What a name.
Tony Bill.
My parents didn't like him very much.
What other huge films did he make in the 90s, and what... He's a director now. I'll get up, don't worry.
He was an actor and a director.
Tony Bill was?
He was in the films as an actor. He's let's see here. I'm trying to find his director stuff, but I'm finding his acting.
Oh, he looks like familiar.
Does he?
Yeah, like he made movies in the 80s. But Pee-wee's Big Adventure,
Okay.
Less Than Zero, Shampoo, Come Blow Your Horn, which I think was a porn film.
Sounds like one.
So he did My Bodyguard, remember that one?
Vaguely,
It
yeah.
was Matt Dillon. Crazy People with Dudley Moore, oh Jesus God. Ice Station Zebra, that was a huge film. Was Jurgen in that one? No, that was 1968, I'm sorry, that's impossible.
Jurgen's been in so many things. At the point, it's hard to keep track of them all.
Five Corners with Jodie Foster and Tim Robbins in 1987. I don't remember that movie at all.
He really, after this movie, he doesn't really direct much in terms of theatrical releases. We've got another one of his movies coming out
No, we don't.
this year in 1993 called A Home of Our Own.
Oh, God.
Does that sound familiar?
Yes, I'm clicking on it now. Kathy Bates. Kathy
Okay.
Bates. Hey, Furlong. Whoa, what do you do? Tony Campisi. I don't know any of them except for Kathy Bates and Eddie Furlong.
Yeah, it doesn't sound at all familiar, I know.
I used to say, Eddie not for long.
Oh,
I was 15. So I want to show you this, because I want to show you how he used to look. And then
could you do this off the podcast?
that.
It's humiliating. Why is he getting shrapnel on this shit? He's not even on.
Because he looks like he's sick.
Wait till we
He's my age. I forgot
We'll
he's my
get to A
age.
Home of Our Own later this year.
Yeah.
We'll have to watch that.
No, we won't. Why would we ever have to watch that? Eddie not for long.
You kind of prepare yourselves for this next week.
Yeah.
It's The Crying Game.
Yes! Eddie's gonna love this movie.
All right. Let's see how this goes.
I think you're going to be a little traumatized. I'm not going to lie to you, but it's awesome.
It's a really great movie.
It's a great fucking film.
Stephen Ray, Forrest Whitaker, Jay Davidson. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that, yeah, so that's next week?
And that's why I referenced Neil Jordan before.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, I'm terrified. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about that film quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, no offense, Christian Slater, but this was a huge misstep in your career.
This was not typical for Slater. I appreciate him trying to go to a different dramatic extreme, but like, dude, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, he made a few good movies, but then you think of, like, I didn't like Broken Arrow and shit like that. Like, he just got into some weird movies. The coolest thing he did recently was he was on Archer. They actually animated him and made him play Christian himself as an FBI agent.
That's great.
Oh, it's fantastic.
That's great.
I've heard good things about Mr. Robot. It was a TV show that was on a few years ago.
Huh. I feel like I've heard of it, but I don't know whether I've seen it.
It was super popular for a very short time. But, yeah.
I'll look it up.
Rami Malek played a hacker.
Oh, I remember that one. All right.
Yeah. That's about that.
That's about that.
Favorite Christian Slater movie?
Pump Up the Volume. That's everybody's favorite.
Yeah. MJ, did the plot of this remind you of any episodes of Supernatural?
Who had the Baboon Heart? Sam or Dean?
No.
Magical rubies, anything?
Come on, they had magical rubies in that show.
They technically had They had a demonic ruby that was just a demon named Ruby. So there was something like that. They
Maybe that's the ruby that Christian Slater was talking about that ripped open his chest. And...
Oh, no, not Ruby, demon.
Could be. Just so you know, too, if you're interested, our mascot, Jürgen Prochnow, will be on our show in a couple of months.
Yeah.
After I reach out to...
Unfortunately, we had to cut him for tonight. Sorry, Jürgen.
We keep having to push him back on every episode. So.
Especially when he's got to make time in his schedule to be here. I mean, he's a busy guy.
That's true.
Being one of the biggest stars in the world.
But I did find an email address to one of his management companies. So if we could get him on the show to talk more about his illustrious career, I'd like to do that.
I mean, if you can find the time.
Well, that's true.
Which movies are you going to talk to him about? Rambo?
All of them. All of them.
Rocky?
It'll
Rocky.
be... We might want to do greatest hits,
Back to the
because if
Future?
we tried to do all of them, it would be a very long podcast,
Right.
is what I'm saying.
We'll talk about 2001, A Space Odyssey. I think another...
He taught Stanley Kubrick how to direct.
That's true. And I loved when he was in Eyes Wide Shut.
Oh my god, his penis is so big.
So big. Like, he has an immense cock.
It's crazy.
Thanks, Jürgen.
Not quite as confusing as Willem Dafoe's, but
None of us
it kind of
will.
makes sense with Jürgen.
I'm never going to understand Willem Dafoe. Anything about him. Massive cock. Needlessly massive. Well, we're glad you listened today.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us for Penis Talk.
It's cock talk.
Wait till next week.
You're going to have so much fun next week.